Hi there. My channel just got demonetized for 3 months as part of a wider and mysterious wave of channel demonetizations that's been going on for the past few weeks. A bigger channel than mine, Supercuts Delight, was demonetized, really hurt his channel, and he said, I have no idea why they're doing this. This has been happening to a couple of other channels, and it's not just me, they didn't know why it was happening. 3 months ago, I was suddenly demonetized. I filed an appeal, and I was restored. And despite not loading any external video or anything else content the past 3 months, with nothing changed, a few days ago I got demonetized again. So I sent back the same appeal, which worked the first time. It didn't work, and they said, now you have to wait 3 months. On top of that, their Twitter help channel was completely useless, was bothering to take the time to respond to me, but just kept saying, read the instructions. Read the instructions. It would have taken less time to actually tell me what the problem was, because I clearly didn't understand it, and they had phrased it very poorly. So this is an explanation for my subscribers, as well as a warning guide for what to do to other YouTube channels that might be watching this. I know this will be an issue for Supercuts. World of Westeros was very supportive during this. Also, the Realm of the Dragon, House of the Dragon, Croatia, their whole spy community crowd has been following me on this. Red Team Review, Preston Jacobs. This affects all of us, because we are all vulnerable to it. Main theme of this video, which I finally figured out, not from YouTube itself, but from having to dig through other, deep dive videos on this from the YouTube community. Main theme of the whole video in one sentence. This new wave of channel demonetization this summer from the YouTube Partnership Program is not due to the old copyright issues whatsoever. It has nothing to do with the model we have been using for years. It's not a copyright issue. It's an anti-auto-generated AI content initiative, which YouTube was right to implement, but implemented very sloppily because they're overwhelmed. And I don't even blame them for that, because it's that bad. Auto-generated content is a legitimate, massive threat to YouTube, which is being used to generate clickbait at an exponential rate. And having looked through all the material on this, I have to admit, we are currently on YouTube, we are losing the fight against AI content. And I say we because it's not just YouTube headquarters, it's we, the smaller channels, are being edged out by clickbait, auto-generated clickbait, and there really is no defense. I mean, obviously for the bigger franchises like Star Wars and stuff, this is hitting them first, but as the Game of Thrones franchise rebuilds itself with House of the Dragon, we will see more of this, as we get targeted by the scammers and auto-generators. So this has actually been going on for other content pretty extensively, it's just it didn't get to us quite yet. And this past summer, well, it's not a week, back in like May and April, YouTube desperately scrambled to respond to the auto-generation problem, but it requires almost a top-to-bottom revamping of the entire YouTube partnership program, of the YouTube monetization model. It's start to finish, top to bottom. It changes everything we've been using for years. It's a different set of rules, and like it or not, they physically do not have the administrative resources to handle this well. And they actually did make a video explaining this as part of, like, you wouldn't understand if you're not in making a YouTube channel. We get updates on our studio page, but there's like a developer channel which is not automatically sent to us, which blatantly should have been embedded in the page about these new rules when, hey, your channel is demonetized. They had no video. When I repeatedly asked their Twitter help page, they should have directed people to this internal video that wasn't up already. There was a 1 page of text which was vaguely worded, and I'm going to go over that. And they do not have the time to go through this. But in the actual video, there was a guy at a desk explaining and admitting YouTube does not have the capacity to check everyone. So we're going to implement a triage system where new applicants for monetization are prioritized at the beginning of the line. So the 90-day demonetization I got isn't a punishment that they judge 90 days severity. It's they think they can only get to me in 90 days. That if they could get to me in 30 days, they would. And that's the way they phrased it. They said, we physically can't get to you guys faster than 90 days. I do question why you're prioritizing newer channels, that you have to meet a threshold of 1,000 subscribers before you can apply for monetization. Their logic was older channels will be more experienced and know what to do. Well, no, you changed the rules. We're unfamiliar with them as much as a new person. If anything, many of us, like, not just me, like Supercuts Delight and everyone, we go, why are they doing this? We met the copyright standards. This is a higher threshold than copyright standards. And they didn't explain it well, didn't even explain how different it is. And we're established channels. Why would we know this better? So I would think that above a certain threshold, you should be prioritized. And I don't have a big channel, but like, over 50,000, I have 25,000, over 50,000 or something does count for more than a noob with 1,000 subscribers, because they have just as much chance of understanding the rules as we do. You changed and if anything, it's more confusing for us because we're used to the other system. But at least there was a video where they clearly explained it wasn't random, it wasn't oversight. There was a conscious decision, whether you agree with it or not. There was let's prioritize new people. That is why this is happening. It's better than I thought. There was no reason. There is a reason. Let's see how sound that is. That they thought we'd be able to quickly understand what they're talking about and reapply, which would be well and good if they wrote out a good explanation. You have a single page, and you thought I would understand this somehow better than a new person, when it's just as likely to confuse me. Everyone's confusing with the copyright strike system. And to reiterate, like, under the copyright system, you get warnings. This has been auto-flagged for its recognized content from something HBO owns. You file a counterclaim that, well, I'm using it according to fair use for reporting, and it's a 3-strike system before you get shut down completely. This, they got everyone's attention by suddenly just you wake up and go, hey, you've been suddenly demonetized with no warning, and we're not even telling you what specific videos are at issue. At all. Because they don't have the capacity to do that, but it's like you somehow thought this was something we would immediately understand how to change our videos. That you needed an instructional video explaining the difference, and my hope is this video will be it for you. So I'm hoping to hear feedback in the comments or on Twitter from World of Westeros, Red Team, other channels that this will affect. I hope I'm explaining it better than they did. I really think that a big part of this would have been solved if instead of the warning they sent was, you have potentially reused content. And I've potentially just said, we've detected reused content, when it should say, instead, it should say, potentially auto-generated content. Not just instead of reused, auto-generated. Emphasis on potentially, and have like a note saying, we don't have the resources to hand check all of these. So if you think you can win a challenge over this, we don't have time to hand check the way they do with the copyright system. I mean, if you're familiar with this on any level, if you're a content creator yourself, imagine the copyright system we already have, where there are YouTube admins checking when we file copyright counterclaims. That has immediately more than doubled because of this, because it's actually a separate set of criteria. They were already, strained to capacity dealing with copyright claims. These are entirely different set altogether. They can't just match or go, okay, it's a stricter system. They should say, even something potentially, because we won't be able to check it. So let me go through and just tell me in the comments. I'm really looking forward to this. Was their assumption that this would make sense? Oh, no, it'll make sense to them. Anyone who files a bad appeal has to wait at the end of the line 90 days from now. Is a stupid idea. I understand they were scrambling. I understand this was implemented desperately at the last minute. What it said was, I just suddenly woke up one day and why is my channel demonetized? And it said demonetized because of reused content detected. Channel uses someone else's content without making changes that add significant value. Well, right off the bat, that sounds confusingly like the standard for fair use. Fair use, if you're not familiar with this, on YouTube is you have to significantly alter clips enough that they're not the same as the real thing. Such as a work of criticism or satire, or a music video using clips from a show set to music. You can argue, not for the song is the song, but you can argue this is transformative when you use a clip montage. That does seeing a 5-minute supercut of funny Tyrion Lannister quotes replicate the experience of buying the full season with an HBO subscription? Not really. Or if I put in a contrast montage of times that Game of Thrones made mistakes, like and number 2, Gendry Rivers is a mistake, and just have it like on-screen subtitles or something, or a supercut. Supercuts delight would be directly affected by it. It's against supercuts. I can make a supercut of stupid things Benioff said, the showrunner said. That passes fair use because I've changed it. It's not the original. It is transformative, is the phrase we keep learning. That under the old system, you could make montages. You could make supercuts. Under the new system, you explicitly can't, and they didn't explain that well. Add significant value. You mean fair use transformative value is what I thought they meant. And why not just say, first line, you have to prove this isn't auto-generated. So what they did say was examples of what is allowed. A funny or thoughtful revision of content you didn't originally create. That sounds like fair use. That is very vaguely worded. Clips of other people's content as part of a critical review, within a longer review that's mostly you talking. Fair enough. Those usually pass fair use anyway. A scene from a movie where you've sarcastically overdubbed it or something. Okay, that sounds odd, but it's transformative. Reaction videos where you're commenting on the original, and a lot of people who are reacting to this on social media and on my community page directly asked, wouldn't this shut down reaction channels? Well, if you're watching Game of Thrones and talking over it throughout, I thought it was because it's not it's fair uses don't replicate the original. You'll see that that's not why they put that emphasis on. It's so we know a robot didn't do it. So we know this isn't a random clip made by an AI. There needs to be a person talking over it. That's the big point they made, and did not make clear here whatsoever. Or edited footage from other content creators. Examples of what is not allowed. Short videos compiled from other special media websites. Collections of songs from different artists, even if you have their permission. Clips of moments from your favorite show edited together with little or no narrative. Now, that's also what threw me, because that sounds like there's a loophole. That sounds like there's a fair use extreme. That is bullshit. They don't have the capacity to triage of 90 days. They do not have the capacity to check if you made a supercut that has a narrative to it. Like, it's a compilation of beginning to end the Daenerys story, or mistakes the show made. They do not have time to check if this is a narrative, not just randomly assembled through AI clips. And that's the darndest thing, that you can't even, if you have friends who do original songs on TikTok, this is a thing on YouTube, I don't really get into it, but you can't make a montage of clips from TikTok channels, even if you have permission from each artist in it. If you have 5 people who you combined a single video, 5 clips from 5 artists, and in the description it links to, I have permission from all of them, they won't allow that because an AI can easily squish together a clip compilation. It's very easy. So even though that would be perfectly legal under the old system, that It's not, it is fair use. I'm making a montage. Under this, montages are bad. Montages are AI. They are the devil. Because they don't have the time to check it. Also, content uploaded many times by other creators, which would run into a problem. Like, what if it's like a clip that an actor said that was really famous or something, like Amelia Clark going best season ever? Now I see the logic behind that an AI could have sampled that and reposted someone else's content 1,000 times. How do they know? They can't check. There isn't enough people at YouTube to check. Or promotion of other people's content, even if you have their permission. This made no sense, so I just refiled the same appeal. The thing I really question is, why did my first appeal work? Nothing changed and my second one worked. My first appeal should have actually failed. But they are so overwhelmed, someone took a glance and passed it. What shocks me is that, and this is something to remember if you're a YouTube channel, this isn't about new content. This is about your entire channel history. And even if this happened to me, if you happen to pass once, a few months from now, maybe during the height of Season 2, you might be randomly demonetized, because, ex post facto, the retroactive laws that we don't... I've never had to refile a copyright claim once it was done. For this, they're so overwhelmed, there's just a guy at a computer racing through a dozen files in a dozen channel claims in an hour. You might accidentally get a pass the first time, and it doesn't matter, and it does not factor into your appeal for the second one. They are so overwhelmed they cannot implement this well, and I hardly blame them. Well, I'm annoyed about it, but when you see the physical capacity to do this just isn't there. And like I said, I was really annoyed when I went to Twitter, and they could have said in the third day, the third go-round of this, they said, it isn't about copyright. And I yelled at them, why didn't you mention this 3 days ago? That they just kept saying, read the instructions, and I'd respond. I've posted screenshots of this to my community tab. If you've read those, please take the time to write a reaction in the comments section now. If you've seen, I've shared these with you, that I was tweeting at them, and they go, read the instructions. I went, what? What? I have read them. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you explain? It would have taken a single tweet to say this isn't about copyright fair use. It's about montages are getting a crackdown because they could be auto-generated, and it's a sea change in how the entire model of YouTube functions. This is probably going to be the end of fan-made music videos as we know it. Like AMVs, animated music videos, those will not survive this. Most supercuts that are pure supercuts without commentary, because they can't distinguish them without hiring a lot more people, which they can't. They can't distinguish this from AI-generated content cheaply. So I kept going. I've seen the message you gave me, that when you click on, there actually is a longer fine print page. I will contest that even this was poorly phrased. Though it starts to mention auto-generated stuff, I went, well, that's why I kept focusing on potentially. I haven't used auto-generator tools. Those didn't exist 5 years ago in large numbers, and they're cracking down on like Supercuts, other channels. If you uploaded a Histories and Lore cartoon from Game of Thrones 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that could get your channel demonetized. They're going back that far. That's how this works. And you didn't use an auto-generator tool to do that, because they didn't exist in 2017. The longer version says contents that violate this. When a channel's content consists of similar stuff, it frustrates viewers who come to YouTube for appealing and interesting videos. That means channels where content is only slightly different video to video. In other words, don't use content that's automatically created or produced using a basic template. That doesn't immediately or very clearly say we're worried about auto-generated spammers. Well, people come here for interesting stuff, and that's the thing the Twitter channel kept saying. You have to add your personal flavor to it, was a phrase they used. You have to use your voice, or face or voice has to appear in it. And I said, some of these are like I ran a clip of Benioff saying something stupid and edited in subtitles explaining as he's saying it how he's lying. Or news reports where I felt like a clip of the table read speaks for itself, but I contrasted it with intercut. Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet with the table read where they mentioned the Iron Fleet and stuff. That kind of thing. A contrast montage to show that they're contradicting themselves. That isn't auto-generated. That doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? They could have just said, we're worried about things that are potentially auto-generated. So, content that exclusively features readings of other people's material, that they edged around this, that my other stuff, like the table read, my voice doesn't appear in it. They should have spelled out, we don't have the capacity to check on-screen text, we have filters that can check for the human voice or human face, is what they were trying to say. But they edged around it. So it's as if you're trying to, when you see someone edging around discussing an unpleasant thing they don't want to just get to, and I say, speak plainly, man! Speak plainly! Rhaenyra was found in a compromising position, unbecoming of a woman. Spit it out, man! We thought she was effing Daemon in a brothel. Say that! So, things that are not supposed to do. Content exclusively featuring readings of other material you didn't originally create, like texts from websites or news feeds. That people could do that. AI-generated content could read off stuff. Like, I know there's channels like... I've seen channels reading off audiobooks of Lovecraft, but that's outside the public domain. I don't know if they get in trouble for that. For fan-made audiobooks of things. But that was also a copyright issue. They tend to do public domain ones anyway, but you can't just read off news articles. Okay. And I think that's so subtle. Like, there are clickbait channels that just read off, this is what winteriscoming.net said today, without comment. But usually there's just enough comment on it that they don't have time to check that. Songs modified to change the pitch or speed, but are otherwise identical. What? I thought it was a fair use thing, that it's the bots are trying to get around our detection systems. Repetitive content with low educational value, commentary, or narrative. Templated, mass-produced, or programmatically generated content. Again, I didn't use a program to make montages, so I assumed I was okay. And I haven't made many of them. Maybe the top 8 videos on my channel, out of 500, are montages. They're the top ones because they're short and they're informative. Like a quick 3-minute clip of the table read got almost 1 million views. They don't have time to check that that's the exception and not the rule for me. So you see, looking at all this, they're going to go, oh, you didn't read it clearly enough. You never really said clearly enough, we are afraid of AI auto-generated content. They edge, well, it has to be your flavor. You have to show your voice. I yelled at the Twitter helpline repeatedly. Why does it have to be my voice? I thought it was fair use. What value does that add that text does not? They should have just said, our auto filters are looking for the human voice because text is harder to find automatically to detect AI content. So because my only vague guess, and I don't want to be conspiratorial, just I guess they were worried that if they told people what they were looking for, it would give people the idea to do it. But this is... Tell me in the comments, it sounds like they're edging around saying what the real issue was. Should you be surprised that it confused all of us? That, well, check your feedback. The feedback was one line, reused content detected. It didn't explain what it was. That what they check, and there's a section that goes, what you check when you review your channel, that it is very possible that the nearly 1 million views I got on the table read video, which you've probably all seen, account for a significant chunk of my total channel viewership. But because of the copyright system, that video is demonetized. That shouldn't count. It's a demonetized video that they never counted for this type of thing before. And it is pretty stupid that they're not considering it now. Well, we can't pay you because those videos you turned off payment on are montages. So that's another direct warning to other content creators out there. Even if you demonetize a montage supercut video, or even a clip of George R. R. Martin saying something, a short clip from a press tour, because you think about it, AI could do that. An AI could find George R. R. Martin news clip and add it to your feed. We've seen this plaguing news sites lately. That it looks auto-generated, probably because it is. It's just a random clip. YouTube doesn't have the time and resources to hand check. This is actually a very key quote that Martin gave, or something. Montages, even standalone clips, if it's mixed with audio you are saying, if it's the clip and then 5 minutes of you talking about the clip, that might work. They can't tell that. And even if if it's a standalone thing, even demonetized, I thought that would stand up because it was under the fair use system, or because, well, I'm not monetizing it. And again, they needed a headline here where they explicitly state, even if you demonetized it, because this has nothing to do with copyright. They did not explain that well, so I didn't take the video down, so now I'm demonetized for 3 months. Why didn't you say it doesn't matter if it's that individual video is monetized or not? The fundamental question we need to ask ourselves going forward every time we load up content is, could an AI program potentially have made this? That the overworked YouTube staff, they are not going to sit down and watch all of our stuff. That this is Blade Runner, the Voight-Kampff test. That you ask emotionally provocative questions of the robot, and he said it usually takes like 20 to 30 questions cross-reference to realize that they gave a slightly off answer, that they're not familiar with emotions, and with the really advanced prototype Rachel, it takes 100 cross-referenced. This is they do not have the time to Voight-Kampff test every one of our videos, all of our montages, or even a standalone clip. All they can do is a surface level, could this be a skin job? They're out hunting the skin jobs, and they don't have time for a subtle test. I think such tests could exist, but they don't have the capacity to review everything. And I started running into this earlier this spring, actually, that I wanted to load up 3 clips back-to-back, red carpet clips of Emma Darcy at the Golden Globes saying how, close to crying, they were close to crying, saying, as a gender non-conforming person, I always felt like I didn't belong, and suddenly there's bigger places for me and other non-binary actors on. And I wondered, why did they take this down? I made it as a montage of 3 clips instead of just 1 clip from one thing. That would pass the copyright system. That explicitly will not this. And I don't blame YouTube, because an AI could very well have made that. Just if you go to Google search for Google videos, take the top 5 Emma Darcy videos, edit them together automatically, this would all be automated, and slap them onto YouTube. That would technically pass the fair use standards for monetization, even though it is entirely AI auto-generated. And this is shocking. So, what is there to do after all of this? On a practical level, what should be done now? For me on my channel, as well as advice for all channels in general. First off, any clips of actual content, be it live-action episode clips or animated things like the Histories and Lore videos, and whether it's a montage or a standalone, either way, no matter the length, they have to go. We can't do that. If you're just posting them as standalone clips or standalone montages, you can use them edited into a longer analysis video as a sample, maybe even a long sample. Like if you have an hour-long video or something, you can make like a 3-minute clip of a really long thing. But if it's just the short standalone clips like that, and particularly when we were loading up Histories and Lore, supercut montages without commentary are gone. And I don't mean voiceover commentary, it could follow it. And I have some videos that are like that that I think would stand up to this test. We can't keep those. Another thing, sorting by popularity, because again, they said they are breezing through these things. They do not have the resources to scrutinize it and make a more detailed assessment. It's just they click the most popular video tab, and well, the most popular things tend to be short clips I've taken from other content, maybe 20 things at most out of 500 videos, but like my number 16 on my list of all 500 videos, pretty high up there on the grid, is one of the actor show reels I made for Emma Darcy. Those three went pretty high. This is after the first trio of core characters were cast, Damon, Alicent, and Rhaenyra. I looked up I made show reel clips of I think these actors could do this based on other performances. Matt Smith is a well-known actor, I was saying, but people are saying he's too nice, so I showed clips of him being a villain in his. And Alicent, I was showing, was a known actor, but I was showing here's things that are kind of Alicent-y that I think she could do. But the big one, the highest rated one, number 16 out of my entire channel for 6 years, 500 videos, was Emma Darcy. That someone going around Instagram and Twitter, people found clips of local British television they had been in, that Emma had been in. And I edited it together, and this is basically everything we could find of this is what Emma Darcy is like to be Rhaenyra. So obviously that had really high viewership, and it still gets a decent number, but it really has played its course. Originally, I was going to do that for all 7 of the core cast. There wasn't time. It really was just the core trio. And that was for when they were casting. Like, would I need to do that for... I never even considered doing that for Season 2 actors. I mean, not that they've announced many people other than Alice Rivers, or, like, Amanda Collins we know from Raised by Wolves. Why would I need to make a show reel? It was for, this is a very prominent character, very prominent role, but the actor is very obscure. What have they been in? Relative to the size of the role, that, like characters in, think of like Game of Thrones terms, Brienne of Tarth, you'd get hyped up and show this is who Gwendolyn Christie is. But like minor phrase in Season 4, it's not even worth making those. So I don't think I'm ever going to do that again. And as for like the one for Emma Darcy, it's run its course. I don't need it anymore. So obvious things like clips of TV shows, the histories and lore, which you've all loaded, because they're like basically trailers. They're basically promo material they put out, and they know we have them and we like them. But this leads to point 2, which is, I haven't been making supercuts of kick-ass funny Tyrion scenes or anything. Point 2, and this affects analysis channels more. We can't include clips of standalone clips. We can't make standalone clips or montages of behind-the-scenes interviews, including Blu-ray commentaries that are audio only. Doesn't mean we can't use them. That I have made videos, like there's one where it was like a combination of a couple of clips, so I actually discussed the theme of it, which was the micromanagement behind the scenes on Game of Thrones. I think that's a good example of something that would pass this test, because it's 3 separate commentary clips, and then I yell about them. That they can tell it isn't auto-generated. That I have analysis to make about it. That it's not ChatGPT. It's not ChatGPT. It's one of the auto-generated AI things. Googled videos, automatically merged them and posted it to YouTube. They don't have the resources to check that. That will be an issue. I need to take them down to get remonetized, but I'm going to take them down gradually. I'm going to take those down late October before I reapply. And I'm telling you now, this is to give everyone who needs that as a research resource the opportunity to download them. So if you want to download or check out, hey, I made this 1-hour supercut of the histories and lore that tells the story of Robert's Rebellion start to finish, not just pasting the individual videos together, but making it's a chronological cut. You have 90 days to take that. Rare interviews that Benioff and Weiss did that are, my God, you did this. The Oxford Union stuff, and even that's a public resource. I'll put it into a longer thing. But like the Blu-ray commentary clips and stuff. And when I take them down, I still save them for myself. So that's what has to happen by November. And I can do that. I just wish they'd explained it more clearly and didn't just go, hey, we're doing this right now, respond. Like, it would take me more than a weekend to do that. Can I recreate these things? Yes. And the bigger issue, moving on next part now, is I was already intending to remake these things. I told you there's other videos I took down that didn't have commentary clips in them, like my early big stuff, because I was an amateur in 2017. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to make YouTube videos, like the Why Dorn Failed thing, which was like 2 hours, should have been half an hour. The Stannis video, I want to remake the Battle of the Bastards thing. I said I want to remake them in better quality. I'll remake them like as an hour-long thing with 5 minutes of interview clips in them, interspersed, to show this isn't an AI. I think it's more impactful when someone just sees a 3-minute clip of Benioff saying something really offensive, or the table read of this really happened. You don't need me as some slob on the internet to tell you what to think. It speaks for itself. But okay, AI rules. I understand that that's a problem. But the bigger thing is, so many people rage quit Game of Thrones after season 8, I mean immediately after the finale, that they weren't watching our documentaries anymore. Now, I started in the break between seasons 6 and 7, so I had a decent number of people who was really fun after season 7, and people who came back to me and said, I didn't believe your videos when I saw them the first time. You pretty much predicted the style of season 7. That it was sloppy, that it was showing off actors, that they were showing off staring with no dialogue, because that's what they think showing them off is. That in tone, I predicted what it would be like, that once you're looking, like a juggler's trick, a magician's trick, once you know what to look for, it's like, how did I not notice this? And it's not that I'm smart, like, I got fooled for the first 4 seasons. When they were doing that, and we thought it was writing, and it wasn't. But so much of our viewership dropped after season 8, and why would it be high? You know, but I thought more people would be angry about this, and it's so weird that I've talked about this before, even up to the House of the Dragon premiere, I'd see mainstream review channels like Angry Joe saying, I'm going to rage watch the first episode to see what it's like, and that they were so genuinely traumatized, capital T, by season 8 that they couldn't even coherently dissect it for criticism. To discuss it, which is only Benioff winning yet again. That up to that point, people were blinded by the hype cult, and then only after that we're so upset we don't want to talk about it. Where it really is against our thing of exposing them. And not just them, but the people who enabled this and allowed it to happen. And people go, oh, you're on Benioff and Weiss. It's the news people and the media reporters who allowed this to happen never faced any consequences and are still in positions of authority. Why do you think shit keeps happening with other shows like the nonsense at The Witcher and The Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings? The system is broken, and no one is willing to stand up and go, that there's people who are willing to shill out for that and hype things that are terrible and support bad writers. That it's a very corrupt system. So I'm more about the people behind the scenes that allowed this to happen. And not a lot of people were watching for 3 years, 3 full years while we were waiting for a prequel. And what I said back in early 2017, I knew still held true. Where I after watching the Blu-ray, I couldn't afford Blu-rays. When I actually got the Blu-rays out of a library after season 6, this is August 2016, I still remember it in my mind's eye. I had never fully reviewed them before, and it's just them saying, I did that to show off the actors I like. Very bluntly, and it was the double realization that, dear God, that's what they're doing. And second, this is blatantly obvious to anyone who watched the Blu-rays. No one else has even watched the Blu-ray commentary. They don't do that anymore. To scrutinize interviews, even after like the Sansa rape stuff, we were waiting for the Blu-rays, and then people didn't really review them. It was very strange. So I said at the time, that's when I was yelling about, we gotta be ready for Rhaenyra, and people were like, what? Because this is, again, before season 7, and I sat down and said, this show is going to fail. On a scale of years, it will destroy the franchise, but the only way to resurrect it is if we have a really good prequel by someone else. And the most probable prequel is Rhaenyra and the Dance of the Dragons. Just he was figuring out that the most likely spin-off is Dance of the Dragons. That's what George R. R. Martin thought was the most probable spin-off in terms of the material they have. And I knew we are eventually going to have to lay the groundwork for the Dance of the Dragons show, and people will only watch our documentaries on what happened if there's a successful other show. And I do this by way of comparison to like what happened behind the scenes at DC with the DC live action movies after Justice League. If that was the last movie, no one would be talking about it again, but you need like other movies in that universe that are good to renew interest in what was going on behind the scenes on that other bad one. Like a good Aquaman movie, a good Wonder Woman movie after the Justice League fiasco, to go, this is still a popular title that people are willing to look up what happened on that original thing. So I knew that there needs to be a prequel to renew interest in it, and for a time there was. Obviously we're in a fallow time again after season 1, because I have a whole other video I'm working on at this. The break between, because Game of Thrones was cranking things out annually, the break between the season finale and when they were casting announcements for the next season was about a month in June every year. There wasn't an off-season of that scale until right at the end. This, we knew there would need to be a fallow time, because they didn't know if season 1 would be a hit, so they didn't plan out the future seasons as very clear. I mean, they had a plan, but not a thorough one. And I don't blame them for that. It was a test. And they said we need to sit down and plan out the phases of this, not just for this show, but for the ongoing franchise. If we're going to do Dunk and Egg, we lowballed it when we said it was a 3 to 4 season show, that Dance of the Dragons is really 4 to 5. They have said we're discussing 5 seasons now. Maybe with fewer episodes, that's fine. In terms of the act breaks in the story, I'd rather have 4 more seasons of 8 episodes each than 3 more seasons of 10 episodes each. It doesn't really work that way. So we knew they're going to take more time off to plan for this. That's why they started filming late, only for them to then go on the writer's strike. So who knows, we might be getting this by fall of 2024. I still think it's summer, but the strike has now made fall a not impossible option. Sorry for all this preamble. My point is, the most popular video on my channel right now, after I've gotten, actually it's my most popular ever, even though I've taken some other ones down, is that 3-minute clip of the table read for Season 8 where Arya kills the Night King. With no other commentary, it's a straight clip, and that's the type of thing they don't want us to have. That's probably what got me on their attention, that when I loaded that in the after, like a week after Season 8 ended, it was from the Last Watch documentary, so it was around June of 2019. From when I loaded that to summer of 2022, that video got 70,000 views. Because it was the fallow time, the famine times between the things. Viewership spiked again when House of the Dragon premiered, and as of today, it's got almost 1 million views. Something like 950,000. Up from like 70,000. And that you see the chart on the viewership thing, that spike was due to Season 1 coming out. It went up to like 500,000 by the end of the season. By the time you have a 500,000 view thing that's short like that, it'll double easily, but looking at this chart of just how much an active season affects viewership, no shutdown in the off-season will really hurt me that much. Or anything I lose now, I can more than make up for when Season 2 itself is coming. And I've already talked about this in other videos. I already said I wanted to do these topical videos, like a dozen of them, on like dragon eggs, on inheritance law, and I said, it makes no sense to release it during this really long break when people aren't watching. That hopefully we'll get up to the point where they're like alternating, where House of the Dragon is in like fall and Dunk and Egg is in spring, so we go like half a year between shows, but a full 12-month period where there isn't chatter. Again, I talked about this in the other video, but because there was that 1-month gap between when Season 2 would cycle down and Season 3 would cycle up into production at Comic-Con, during the alleged off-season, which was actually filming season and leak season for Game of Thrones, The chatter level, according to Google Trends, the number of people searching for the show and news and stuff, Googling it, was about 15% of what it was during the active season. House of the Dragon by this past March was less than 2%. Because they weren't immediately going into filming the next one. It's not that people didn't like it, it's just there wasn't filming news. There wasn't casting news. Well, why would they be Googling it? There wasn't a Blu-ray out by Christmas. I wonder if we're going to get a Blu-ray by this Christmas that has, like, commentary and stuff. They already did stuff for HBO Max, so I kind of want another Histories and Lore, but the chatter level now is incredibly low. I'm lucky if I get a video in the 1 to 2,000 views range, and that's not because they're not major analysis videos. I'm just doing filming news stuff for my core subscribers. So we were already in offline mode, inactive mode. That if this had happened during Season 2 itself, or the build-up to Season 2, this would have been a disaster for me. But I was panicking when I was like, when I didn't know what they were angry about. Why are they even doing this? When we have very strict rules against posting video clips in isolation because we need to know a human made it. Okay, on a scale of months, I can work with that. I can retool my channel. It's a lot more work and I'm really backlogged, but on a scale of that Season 2 won't even be out until next summer. I mean, Season 2 might come out literally 1 year to the day from now. I expect maybe not even, I don't think the strike would delay it that much, but like an August release is what I've been saying. I mean, last weekend of August is fall, but like early August, like basically 12 months, okay, give or take. So we have time to deal with this, that this will not affect my video production too much. The other thing is, I don't use YouTube for money. That's the thing, that in terms of, I can't live off of YouTube money during the off-season when it drops off to nothing. It's not consistent. And try as I might, you've seen the clickbait channels trying to spur interest in that. It just doesn't work with these clickbaiters and the spammers now. So, we've been having so many problems with that. I'm actually completely in favor of YouTube's new policy. In general principle, I just wish they had implemented it more clearly and told us why they were doing it when I directly asked them, what exactly is it you are trying to get me to do? I don't know what the problem is with the videos. How can I fix them if I don't know what you're complaining about? But I understand intellectually that they are over capacity. They have a triage system. They openly said there's a 3-month backlog on a help list, because they can't do it faster than that. So I'm annoyed that this took them by surprise, but I'm in favor of this auto-generated AI, this anti-auto-generated AI content purge, or potential auto-generated content. I mean, when it used to come to clickbait, recycling video content, I mean, we'd pay our people a little extra so they wouldn't do that kind of business. But now, someone comes to them and says, you put up a $4,000 investment in AI auto-generator for our Game of Thrones content, and you'll make a $50,000 return on it from advertising. They can't resist that. I'm telling you, this auto-generated content business is going to destroy us in the years to come. I mean, it's not like the online gambling or the so-called fair use repurposing of video content that we want to watch for free, which is something most people want nowadays, but which is forbidden to them by the big shots at YouTube headquarters. No. Even the YouTube admins who have helped us in the past with that kind of thing are going to refuse to help us when it comes to auto-generated content. I believe that then, and I believe that now. That given how much AI-generated content has advanced, even in the past few years, they are fully capable of making montages, clips of interviews, and AMVs, and drowning out the rest of us. That my nightmare scenario is the technology exists, seriously exists, for auto-generated content to be running 100 videos a day on like a dozen different channels that are genuine video content, just slightly repackaged, that drown out the real channels. That is physically, technically possible. They just haven't gotten to us yet like they have for bigger franchises like Star Wars and Marvel. This wasn't here 5 years ago, it is now. The AI war is now. The fools, they let it get out of hand. Thou shalt not make a machine in the image of a human mind. They didn't learn that. But what really, also on top of that, the threat of the AI that got me on board with this is we've had similar problems with human clickbaiters, and less than clickbaiters. That if you're making clickbait, there's still a conscious choice to make up fake theories, and you have to write them. I'm talking about the lower than the low, scum of the earth clickbait channels that are like literally just recutting video content and reposting them one per day to game the system with no voice content whatsoever. Do you guys remember that channel, Fire and Blood? Some of you do, that we were complaining about this a lot, that even Talking Thrones yelled about that guy, that in the lead up to season 1 of House of the Dragon, throughout 2021 when they were filming, would cut up random clips of Targaryen scenes, load them up, and make a fake cover image for his videos saying, this is a sneak preview at House of the Dragon. And then he got clever and started releasing, he'd make fake cover images from other fantasy shows, using Photoshop to put in Game of Thrones things, so people looking at it would go, maybe this is a new trailer I haven't seen before because it's from an obscure fantasy show. They don't know that's not a new thing, that's from a fantasy show from 5 years ago. They wouldn't know that. And he'd start, okay, he's releasing histories and lore clips from the animated featurettes. That 20-minute Dance of the Dragons thing, I don't know how many times he recut up and just mashed in different ways and recombined 20 minutes of footage. But for about a year on a daily basis, he'd just be cranking these things out with fake trailers, with fake cover images saying, this is a trailer, this is a preview. And it reeked of desperation. It's just, what are you going to do when this runs out? I don't know. And at first I thought he's desperate because there's 3 years with no new content, but that's all he ever put out. It stopped being funny. Other channels really got angry about it. And it turns out you can't really sustain that when the actual show was airing. I thought he'd actually come up with commentary again or reviews. He didn't. All he'd do is take the next episode trailers every week, he'd go repost them to his channel going, wow, this is the trailer for episode 5. Well, it is, but it's already on HBO's channel. Why did you recopy it? That's not work. And then he'd still be releasing the histories and lore things. And thankfully, while he was spamming out content during the production cycle of 2021, he could not compete with the fandom came back and real channels are getting viewership in numbers. He hasn't made a video since November 14th, I think. His channel might finally be dead, thank God. That he wasn't even making clickbait, he was recutting video content. He was doing that by hand. Imagine if someone like that got their hands on essentially the video version of ChatGPT, that it's just Googling video clips, gluing them together automatically, and posting them. Just a jumble of clips. Tell me in the comments, remember that Fire and Blood guy? Imagine if he had something the equivalent of ChatGPT to supercharge and automate the random video clips. I mean, even today, when you Google House of the Dragon, when you YouTube search House of the Dragon content, you'll always find, if you search within the window of a day or a week, clips from the show that are loaded up they're claiming to be trailers when they're not. And thankfully, the algorithm has been weeding those out so far, but what really sold me on this, once it was coherently explained to me why this purge is happening at YouTube, this will hurt the clickbait channels far more than it will hurt us. I mean, for us, this means we can't keep loading up histories and lore videos, which are always kind of a bonus. We were bored during the gap between shows for 3 years. We can afford to not have those. I miss the Roberts Rebellion Supercut. Remember to download that in the next 3 months before I take it down. But that's not really what my channel is about. This will devastate the clickbait channels, lower than clickbait, the video bait people who rely on that kind of thing. And the AI revolution is here, and it's not synthetic intelligence where it's genuinely conscious. It's dumb AI. There's hard AI and soft AI. It's AI that actually doesn't know what it's doing, but can do it really fast without comprehension or wisdom is very dangerous, just in general. That it can do things really fast without really understanding what it's doing is, to me, worse than a truly self-aware artificial intelligence. Because it can be the potential for abuse. Like even an auto dialer, essentially, just scaled up. It's doing an automated process on a massive scale really fast, without comprehension. So I mean, they're fully capable of all of that, and that's what got me on board with this. And I can't reapply again until November 12th, and the only way this really affects me is viewership might drop. Because I think the way it works is that when your channel is monetized, YouTube promotes your channel in the algorithm more. Not, it doesn't, when you search for content, I'll still come up under a search bar, but in your suggested videos feed, I might come up a little less for the next 3 months. But as I said, we're in such a fallow time that I think I'm mostly reliant on subscribers who look for my work anyway. Maybe half. Like, the numbers say half, but that half is people who are looking at the video clips of the table read. I don't know how much this would affect people watching my new videos. I get 1,000, 2,000 on each new filming update. And I don't care if people aren't watching that was like a glorified trailer for my channel, the clip of the table read, because it wasn't monetized. And it did, steer people to my channel, but if you're looking for filming news updates, I don't really think this would affect anything. I'm interested if a month from now we see that the daily viewership on my new videos, filming report videos, will that drop below 1,000 threshold? I don't know. The only thing I'm really upset about is this might affect how much my channel is promoted for 3 months. In the off-season, when again, you saw the spike on everything during the active airing season. And it'll be like the silence before a thunderstorm, that the bigger the silence, the bigger the noise, as they say. That there hasn't been video content and trailers for House of the Dragon for so many months for the general audience. They are going to devour Season 2. They'll be hungry for it. As opposed to, it's the opposite of franchise fatigue. That there's been so little content, there'll be a surge next summer, a year from now. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm happy this is happening now as opposed to right before Season 2. This is a retooling they needed to do, but it's only really affecting my viewership. Maybe not that much, because my subscribers are the only ones really watching anyway in the off-season. That I mentioned this before I got out of order, that I don't live off of YouTube money. I've never downloaded YouTube money. You see, in the 6 years I've been doing this, the grand total I've ever earned off of YouTube is $16,000. And in the past year, 2023, my weekly, during the off season, my weekly average has been $50. Sometimes $100 on a good week when I make a lot of content, because there's only so many people watching. I'm not making this scathing Daenerys behind-the-scenes documentary that gets 50,000 views. That doesn't happen. I mean, rarely, like, the point where I was making, like, real content, like, there's this big new interview about dragon breeds, was, like, the first week of Season 1, and it got a lot of views. I'm not doing that now. I wouldn't be doing that. So, $50 a week times 12 weeks, it's like $600. If it was up to $100, that'd be $1,200. Let's round that to I might be losing a theoretical $1,000 from this, which is a drop in the bucket because I never download that money. You see, I was unemployed during the pandemic, and before that I was right out of school, and I just got a new job. I told you I've been busy with that. So this might change by next year, but my whole thing was, Might be different internationally, but in the United States, if you make a certain amount of money, you don't qualify for government health care anymore. That if you're making nothing, if you're unemployed, there's a pandemic, you qualify for certain healthcare benefits, certain tax breaks. That the tax breaks were against me in such a way that there's a middle ground, that there's nothing, but at least I'm getting some healthcare stuff. Then at the top, there's I have a job and I'm earning things. And there's this unhappy middle where I'm earning less than a living wage, but it's just enough to screw up whether I qualify for healthcare or not. Because healthcare is a privilege here, and of the wealthy. So if I ever downloaded I've been saying I'm going to download all my YouTube money once I'm earning my own healthcare with a full-time, good-paying job that earns a living wage. And I'm at the point where I'm working back up to that after the pandemic. I'm doing stuff again, started a month ago, it's really nice. I might be paying taxes next April. But on the whole, I haven't needed to download $16,000. It wouldn't change anything. All it would do is screw up my health care. It's that whole infamous thing where, like, a couple of years ago, some jackass wrote an op-ed saying millennials are lazy. If they ate less avocado on toast, it's like, that's a thing? I'm not objecting to that. I just didn't know that was a popular millennial snack. But if you guys went to the movies less and saved your money and ate less popcorn, you'd be able to afford a house. Remember that infamous op-ed? And people were like, no. Minor luxuries like chewing gum or the movies, you could never save up enough to buy a house. That the living gap, the income gap between rich and poor is so much that between the housing gap, you can't support yourself, even not even a house, just even an apartment, grocery bills. You could not afford, it's not the difference between getting kicked out of your apartment or not, whether you have chewing gum. Little luxuries like that. That $16,000 across 6 years is nothing. $50 a week, $100 a week on a good week is nothing. I can't live on that myself. I could not save up that much money in 6 years to support myself. And for that matter, I couldn't support a wife. I could not support children. I want to have a family someday. I can't support a family without a real job. YouTube is not a real job. What am I going to do? Trick a girl into having a child or two with me and then figure out how to pay for them? You can't raise a family on YouTube money alone. Some of the huge channels that are in the multi-million-dollar subscriber range might consider that. Even like people within our fandom, the bigger ones are in the 100,000 subscriber range. They don't make living money off of YouTube. It doesn't work like it. Maybe the Patreon stuff for the really big ones. It's enough to, even then it'll be like a minimum wage job, which you can't really support a house on. So, I think a lot of clickbait channels thought this would be easy money, and they're annoying when they just think, oh, we'll just cut some videos together, it'll be easy money. There isn't that much money in YouTube. So while I'm annoyed I'm losing 1,000, as South Park would say, 1,000 theoretical dollars, I've never even downloaded the other 16,000 because it would screw up my healthcare. And I never even tried to use this as a money-making thing because it would lose so much. That the reason I monetized my channel is, I don't know if you know how this works, when you get YouTube ads, YouTube gets most of the money from those ads. I get a fraction, I think like a third or a fourth of the money. That's like for every $1 I make, they make 4 or something. 3 or 4, maybe more than that, I don't know. But I make a fraction of what YouTube makes off of this. And the entire reason I monetized my channel is they will promote your channel, your videos more, so they make more money off of them. And you get some change off of that. So all this accounts for is that my channel might be promoted a little less during 3 months of the off-season. And filming is ending in a month, the last week of September. This will not seriously hurt my channel, and if it's for retooling to avoid a purge of suspected skin jobs, of suspected AI channels, I'm fine with that. It's just more work, it's annoying, but I kind of knew going into this that next spring I'm going to be reworking a lot of my older content on what the hell Benioff and Weiss did behind the scenes, because they have that new show. That I'm going to point out, this isn't just a fluke. They are con men who don't know how to make television, from a specific checklist of technical skills that they lied that they possess when they don't. Like they don't know how cinematography works. They don't know how filming logistics work. Little things. So I've been very upset about this, but if you're my core subscribers and I'm still getting 1,000 to 2,000 views per filming report for the next 3 months, this won't really affect that much. Just means I need to take the videos down last week of October, and I need to spend more time, which I was already going to do, remaking them later. So we'll see how that turns out. Let me see if I have any other points I want to do. The only tangible thing is, this might hurt my viewership, but for a couple of days there, I thought it would destroy my channel. I mean, Supercut's Delight has been devastated. I don't know if anyone told him it's about AI content, that when he narrates most of his videos, that he can't post supercuts as such, but as long as you're talking a little during them, it's not a copyright thing, it's just to prove I'm not an AI. That might be able to fix his channel. I don't know what's going on with him. I felt he was devastated by that because so much of his work went into it. This is something we need to work around. Right now, channels who I know have been posting histories and lore 4 years ago, they will use that against us. Not use against us intended, just we're getting swept up in a purge because they don't have the resources to do it effectively, with detail. So like Red Team Review, Preston Jacobs, anyone who has loaded histories and lore, we have to take them down. Anything that doesn't have our audio content in it. Because they would if they could. They don't have the capacity to have someone really measuring this is human-generated content or not. So this shot a lot of time this week, but that's pretty much the situation we're faced with. I'm sorry for the over hour-long podcast about this, but this shook me pretty bad. But as long as we're on track by November, I'll take it down. November it'll be up again. None of this matters in this, not just off-season, but unusually long off-season. Everything is marking the days until the relaunch of everything in Season 2. We're not going to face another gap between Seasons 2 and 3, even despite the writer's strike and the actor's strike. There'll be some issues, but they'll alternate with Dunk and Egg. It won't be as long of a wait. The year and a half wait. There'll be other content within a little less than a year after that. I'm willing to speculate till the strike is over. But this will be the last time we ever have a gap like this on the scale of 10 years. They will always be making something. And when you see what the viewership numbers are like during that active season, or, well, it's the slight dip in that 1 month between projects where, okay, we're coming off the tail end of Ahsoka, but then a month after Ahsoka, there's a live-action trailer with actors for The Acolyte, for Star Wars, where we're never really without something to talk about on here. We'll be okay. I wish they had gotten this right the first time and just told me what the real problem was, and that we will yank your channel's monetization, and they don't have a strike system. It's just we're spending 5 minutes checking it. It's up or it's not. There is very little leeway with this, and it's not that I would never post. I'd have a problem with never load a montage again. I had some of these I had to fight copyright strikes for to keep them up. And I'm not looking forward to going through that again, and it was work. But so many people missed the vital behind-the-scenes research and clips I made during mid-2020, because stuff was going on top of people rage quit the franchise. Every day, new people were coming on that table read video going, I can't believe this exists. I never knew it existed. This is what the table read was like. There's going to be an audience for our behind-the-scenes Game of Thrones stuff when House of the Dragon Season 2 comes back. exponentially higher. You've seen it turn a 70,000 view clip into nearly 1 million. Tenfold increase we could expect for, and this time I'm not the young amateur who didn't know what he was doing in terms of I didn't have a good microphone, I didn't know how editing worked, that I was 6 years ago. I'm not exactly a professional, but I think I can do a better job with less yelling, more scripting, and more succinctly. On a professional level, have more impact. This is what was really going on behind the scenes. It was deeply corrupt. It's going to have to do that anyway. It's just more fuel on the fire. So now we're back to your regularly scheduled programming of there will be filming news updates through... We've seen leaked filming schedules. It goes right through the last day of September. Well, let me just look at my calendar here. Yeah, the September 30th is a Saturday. So, like, through September 29th, I thought it would go into October. It actually won't. And even then, they said because of the strike, we're going to have to come back for a month of reshoots at some point. I just think the reshoots are going to be interior things at Leavesden, which we're not going to get spy photos of. That's the question of the moment with the strike, though. Will Season 2 premiere next summer, or possibly in the fall? It could physically be done by summer, but maybe they'll decide so many other projects are delayed that they have to space out what is finished later in the year. That if, like, whatever, and Just Like That season or something, or whatever, is not done yet, they might delay us until the fall, and I'd actually welcome that because I'm not done yet with so much prep work I needed to do. So, as long as I'm pulling in 1,000 to 2,000 views per video, check that and remark on it in the comments. On filming news for my regular subscribers, I think we'll be okay. By Thanksgiving weekend, I might hold a, if you ever seen PBS in America, where they have the call-in, please donate, we call it the Begathon. I don't normally do live streams where people can donate money, but I would like to do a Begathon PBS style around Thanksgiving. The goal is make up the roughly $1,000 I lost. And more importantly, when you donate money, it also boosts your ranking in the algorithm. So it'll be... And it's not money I make. I'm leaving it in the escrow. I never download the money. That I'm going to hold a Begathon. Please help boost my algorithm by reaching a goal of $1,000 or something to try to fix it for this vital retooling. Which will hurt the clickbait channels more than it will ever hurt us. That we can adapt to this. We're smart. It's just, I wish they'd explain this more clearly, and I will leave you on that thought after this ramble. Please tell me in the comments, from everything I showed you, did YouTube clearly explain what they wanted me to do? Even on the more detailed fine print page, it's as if they were intentionally edging around saying, we're fighting against auto-generated video content. Oh, add your own flavor to it. It needs your face or your voice. I add sarcastic subtitles to things. Why isn't that much of it? They could have just said, our filters only have time to look at, is there a human voice? And we're so overwhelmed. The AI stuff is winning the spammers. We don't have the capacity to check everything by actually watching it. Is this an effective set? Imagine if you had 2 minutes to check if a 30-minute video montage was scenes put together in such a way that they form an actual narrative, or if they were randomly put together by an AI. But if you had time to watch the whole thing, you kind of could figure it out. They don't have that amount of resources. They don't have the time or manpower to check everything. They are overwhelmed. I didn't realize things were this bad. So I'm less angry that they're not screwing me over out of pettiness. It's they're that overwhelmed that they cannot respond to this well. I still blame the guy on the Twitter feed who was, okay, 3 go-rounds and only 3 days in did you mention this isn't about copyright, when I was clearly asking, what copyright thing did I do wrong for fair use? They just kept saying, read the manual. 1 tweet, 1 sentence. It's not about fair use. It's a higher standard for montages because we're worried about auto-generated content. I wish someone had told me this. I'm telling you.